Hey, everybody. Welcome to a live recording of Money with Friends. She's Bobby. I'm Joe. And are you ready? We're going to make a live show that's going to be live on what's the date going to
It's
be?
going to be released on Monday, March 2nd.
Two?
Monday, March 2nd
March
to March
2nd
2nd.
already. March. In like a lion, out like a lamb. We'll have this for Monday. So if you want to help us make the show as you join us here, leave your comments below, off to the side, wherever the heck you leave them. Go ahead and leave comments and you can be a part of the show. This is disturbing news that Bobby got from Market Watch that we're going to be talking about. So hang out with us, have some fun, and we're making a podcast. Speaking of making a podcast, I am pressing record right now, Bobby, and whenever you're ready.
All right, this is the show for Monday, March 2nd. Looking for love and finding yourself ripped off. Could it happen to you? Has it happened to you and you didn't know it? The data could break your heart. We will have that and so much more on this episode of Money with Friends. Welcome to the Money with Friends podcast. I am certified financial planner, Bobby Rebell, host of the Financial Grown Up podcast, coming to you from my very grown up kitchen in New York City.
And coming to you from my mom's half-finished basement, which is kind of cold today, outside Detroit, Michigan. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy.
This is the Money News Show that includes commentary on recent headlines and stories with thought leaders from across the financial landscape. We break those stories down into what matters to you, our friends, and we leave you with a takeaway to make it your own.
Today's show is brought to you by Tiller Money, TillerHQ.com. Your financial life in a spreadsheet, automatically updated every day. Only Tiller Money automatically updates spreadsheets with your daily finances so you can manage your money with the greatest control. You can try it free by heading to TillerHQ.com, but we've negotiated a deal with them. And if you want to subscribe for 20% off your annual subscription, go to TillerHQ.com/MWF for Money with Friends. And there's your 20% off. You're welcome, people. We did that for you. We're going to do something else for you. We're also going to help you avoid dating scams. This is ugly.
Yeah, I was sort of floored when I read this. So I wanted to share it with our listeners so that they would be aware, because this is stuff that could be happening to you and you don't even realize it,
Could
or
it
to
be
your friends.
Mr. or Miss Right? And you get so excited, and clearly a scammer is going to come across like they're Mr. or Miss Right, which is going to make you not just brokenhearted, but also have a broken wallet. Let's
Yeah.
jump into it here. Let's see which one of our friends is going to help us kick off today's show.
All right, here we go. This is from Market Watch. The writer is Bianca Flowers. Americans were scammed out of $201 million in 2019 from dating fraud. Looking for love online may cost you more than you bargained for. Online dating scams are on the rise. According to a recent report published by the Federal Trade Commission, Americans lost $201 million to romance fraud in 2019. That is up nearly 40% from 2018. The number of complaints filed to the FTC topped 25,000, making dating scams the most reported type of consumer fraud. Wow, can we just pause there?
Yeah,
The most reported type of consumer fraud. I had no idea.
that
That's
me
crazy.
neither. That's ugly.
Ugh. All right. Now we have a quote from Monica Vaca, who's associate director of the FTC. Quote, the most jarring thing is how quickly romance scams are increasing, referring to the number of complaints tripling since 2015. Quote, these are long-term scams that don't just happen once because the people committing these crimes try to cultivate a trusting relationship with the victim. As more people flock to dating apps and websites hoping to find their soulmate, scammers are also on the prowl looking to take advantage of lonely hearts. The median loss to victims in the US was $501, while victims over 70 years old were conned out of more than $6,000 each.
Mm.
About 60% of US adults consider online dating a good way to connect with people, and popular websites like Match.com have seen people 50 or older become its fastest growing user segment. Romance scammers tend to target widows and elderly who are more emotionally susceptible to being tricked into giving their supposed love interest money. And then we have a quote. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that's all right. Romance scams can happen to anyone, but there are people who are more vulnerable, said Claire Rosenwig, president and CEO of the Better Business Bureau, Metropolitan New York. The dollar amount lost is just the tip of the iceberg because a lot of people don't report these types of scams because they're embarrassed. Scammers are also getting more sophisticated by coaxing victims into becoming unknowing accomplices in other fraudulent activity. According to the Better Business Bureau, about 20 to 30% of romance fraud victims are lured into becoming money mules, which essentially means committing money laundering. Sometimes victims can be asked to open a bank account or go pick up wired money. Unfortunately, that money could be from other victims, says Rosenweig. Dating services and apps have become more proactive in filtering out imposters to protect users by integrating more safety features such as artificial intelligence and photo verification. But technology has its limits. Experts say that being vigilant of red flags is the best way to guard your heart and your money. I think it is just well, number one, it's repulsive, but number two, Bobby, it's amazing to me that somebody spends so much energy acting like they're a nice person, which seems to me to be a hell of a lot harder than actually just being a nice person.
Well, their mission is not to be a nice person. Their mission is to scam people out of money. And so it's really scary because they also talk about how this is often long term. So we might have red flags up if you just met somebody for a week, two, but what if you're dating somebody for a year and then this stuff starts happening, right? Or you've had even an online relationship and you perceive it as somebody that you know, which is true. In this world, we often have online friends that we haven't met in person, or we've met in person, once, and then you get to know them online and you don't have people in common that that you just sort of use as validation. It's very scary. And the scariest part of this is that the relatives of the people this is happening to may never find out because the person being scammed is embarrassed, maybe, and they don't want to be judged for having made this mistake. And the truth is, I don't have the statistic in front of me of how many people meet their true loves, their eventually, husbands, wives, or partners, whatever, online. But it's a big number. I mean, I met my husband online, and that was, gosh, 15 years ago in 2005. So that seems so retro at this point, so long ago in the internet dating world. But this is a very mainstream way to meet people. And the truth is, you're often meeting people that you would not otherwise meet, which in theory is a good thing because you've got more people to choose from and you can find a better match. But it also opens us all up to these kinds of things, which are really scary.
My daughter met a long-term boyfriend at school, just another person at school using a dating app, which, when I was in school, it wouldn't have happened that way. So you're right. It's mainstream. And I don't, it just, you think about how vulnerable somebody is putting themselves out there, because the first thing that happens when you go to a dating app is you're going to be judged. And think about how good you feel when somebody accepts you apparently for who you are, and whatever flaws you think that you have, this person looks past them and they seem so nice and endearing, and holy cow. And maybe there's, I'm thinking, I'm just trying to think about what the so what's here are. What do we do with this? I'm reminded of a phrase that I've heard people use before, Bobby, which is trust but verify, right? Trust but verify. If it's only an online relationship and you haven't met face to face yet, I think that the wallet probably needs to stay out of the relationship.
Absolutely. And it's also good just in general to validate them. Maybe you have some other, once you've met, I mean, for example, if your daughter met a boyfriend online, it's at school, she can probably find people that they know in common and sort of get a sense of who this person is before getting involved with them, not only financially, but even emotionally. It's really good to have that. These days you can usually figure out who knows who between all of the social media platforms that we have. And I think that's always a good way to go. I asked, by the way, I did put out a quick poll on our Instagram, which is at Money Friends Pod. And I did ask, I said, we're going to be revealing some shocking statistics about dating scams. I asked, do you know anyone who has fallen victim to dating scams? What do you think our Money Friends said?
Oh, boy, this one I'm going to get it wrong. Because I would have thought that very few people would know somebody, but based on the statistics we just shared today, I think the number's probably much higher. So I'm just going to go a straight 50-50.
No, I think that's logical. I agree with your logic, but actually it was only 15% said they did in fact know someone who has fallen victim. But remember, they might know somebody that has and not be aware of it because that victim may not be telling them. And so I think the number is probably 50-50, but the people that actually are aware that someone in their friends or family universe was a victim is probably smaller because that person is keeping that information secret because they're embarrassed. I mean, it's a tough thing to admit that not only did the relationship not work out, but it wasn't even a real relationship. It was just someone scamming you. I mean, that is, you talk about a broken heart and amplifying that. That is just cruel. So,
Yeah, yeah, I, I can't imagine. I'm 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 thinking about other tells. Just if at any time somebody says that they want to borrow money from you, and they're you're casually dating them or beginning to date them, no matter how you feel, the second that borrow money comes up, I think is a problem, or help me buy, or I had a short term problem with X thing. And I'm sure it would be a great story, right?
mhm.
My car broke down. I have a problem. I have to get to work. Not sure where to turn. So I thought I'd ask you for this one little favor.
Yeah, bad news, certainly. And it's not always a new, romance. It's often they talk about this that it's often they're playing the long game. So it could even be someone that you've been with for quite some time. Maybe they're scamming multiple people at the same time.
Well,
You
we've
know?
done stories in our headlines for Stacking Benjamins about, they talked about senior citizens, senior women being bilked out of tons of money, and
Mhm.
they and I mean that's where you play the long game if you're a scammer, because somebody's had a lifetime of building up money. They were at one point married, husband has passed away,
Mhm.
so now they have all the money from the family, and yeah, there's
Yeah.
a ugly long
And
game there.
and they may not only not be used to managing the money, they may want somebody to take care of them and manage the money. They don't know what to do. So if they trust their new love, and the new person in their life seems like they know what they're doing with money, um, that is a place they're very vulnerable. I mean, the person may tell them, well, I'm not going to manage your money, but I recommend my friend who works at this, company. And it could be that kind of thing. So you don't think you're even giving it to them directly. You think you're just using the recommendation of what, company in quotes to give it to, or a money manager that your new partner recommends. So it may not look like you're giving them money, but in fact
Yeah,
you are indirectly. So it can be done very
yeah.
creatively. And I think we're all vulnerable. We all have to have our antennas up, and we shouldn't think that we could never fall victim to something, because I think everyone has their pain point. Everyone has their weakness. And, we got to look out for each other, especially be aware of what's going on with your older relatives in particular.
We just had a situation in our family that wasn't a romance scam, but it was with an older member of our family where he, in his 80s, has been in a class with a bunch of people for a few years, and one of the guys in his class was being evicted from his apartment and had nowhere to go.
Mm.
And asked this member of our family if it'd be okay if he moved in with him, and he said sure, yeah, that would be great. And by the way, he was leaving to go out of the country like 3 weeks later. So I mean, he was very open and forthright, and good for him. By the way, he immediately told Cheryl and I that he was taking on a roommate and he really liked the guy. But we started asking, so why did he get evicted? Why did he get evicted? And the guy has no money and has no other place to go, and he's in his 80s also and has no family. And
Mm.
so we just suggested that he get a couple references. And we got a text a couple days later from our relative saying, you know what? I'm glad that you talked to me about that. And I decided that I was way too uncomfortable. And I told this other person that I just can't do it.
Interesting. Yeah, look, the person could come in and seem innocent. They could just, now they've got a key to your apartment. They can not only
Yeah.
take your physical stuff, but they could nose into who knows what. If you got a document lying around or something, you never know.
Yeah. Some person just
Yeah.
living at your house that you don't know, and leaving the country with them having a key.
Yeah. That
That
they
can
can
be
easily
ugly.
make a copy of. Yep. So,
Well, in just a second, we're going to have our big takeaway from today's piece. But while Bobby is getting the takeaway to end all takeaways ready, I want to talk a little bit about Tiller, because Tiller is what I use to manage my money. I love the Tiller Quick Insights. I've never talked about these before, but every day I get a very quick insight that tells me all the transactions that they've linked. It also can show me what my biggest outflows have been in the last, let's say 30, 60, or 90 days, who I paid the most money to, which area is the biggest. I can slice and dice the data any way I want because Tiller is a spreadsheet. And I press a button once a day and it's automatically updated. And then I very quickly am able to go through my Tiller sheet. And frankly, you can even have it so you don't have to press the button. It just magically updates it every single day. I like Tiller because of the fact that it makes it easy for me to manage my money. Might be the same for you. Check it out. Head to tillerhq.com/MWF. And if you decide you like it, you'll get 20% off a 1-year subscription. You can try it for free ahead of time. But if you decide to keep it, want to pay the yearly subscription, tillerhq.com/MWF to do that. All right, Bobby, what are we doing with this information?
You know, Joe, we tell our kids not to trust strangers that they meet online, but we do it all. We, the grown-ups, do it all the time. We meet people online because that's the way we meet people, even just for friendships and business and networking. That's our life these days. But as much as it stinks, we have to keep our guard up and we also have to talk about it. If it happens to you, report it. And most of all, be on the lookout for the ones that you care about, your friends and family. Ask them questions about who they are seeing, not just romantically, but also friends. It has to be a community effort.
Yeah, that's I really have nothing over and above that. That's
Oh, come on.
it,
You can
no,
do it.
it's exactly well, it is exactly mine because mine is I really felt good that this family member actually reached out. If something, the more public you are about new relationships and what's going on with those relationships, I think the safer that you are. And it isn't just safety for your wallet, safety for your person. If you're meeting somebody that you've only known online and you're meeting them for the first time, it's a good idea to let other people know that you are going somewhere and you're meeting someone. And if you're thinking about taking on a roommate or whatever it might be, telling some family members who care about you, I think is a good idea.
Very well said. I think that's important.
I don't know. I think yours was way, way, way better, which is
No,
why
yours was better, Joe.
I didn't have anything to add. Bobby, where do people help us make the show? We did a poll earlier. How do people take part in our polls?
They should be following us on Instagram at Money Friends Pod. That is also, by the way, our handle on Twitter. And stay close to the stories because we often preview the stories that we're going to be talking about on Instagram stories. And we also put out polls, quizzes, and questions that you can answer. So even if you can't join us for the live tapings of the show, you can get a shout out as well. So we love to have people be part of it. And if you want to learn more about the show, including the links to the headlines we talk about and our thought leaders that join us in some episodes, go to our website, moneywithfriendspodcast.com.
We started building very organically our Instagram last summer, and we've already passed 2,000 people hanging out with us on Instagram,
Yeah.
which
Thank
is
you for following us, everyone.
absolutely cool. So hang out with us there. And not only will you see what's coming up on the shows, but you'll see all kinds of entertainment. I think that's going to do it, Bobby.
I think that was very well done, Joe. Thank you for having me on this wonderful show today.
Tomorrow, Bobby's with Julian Saunders, one half of the Rich and Regular blog team, the award-winning Rich and Regular blog team. You guys are going to be talking about some interesting stuff tomorrow, Bobby.
Yes, we're going to be talking on Tuesday's show. We're going to be talking about financial literacy and how you can educate yourself so you know more about your money. And then we are going to be talking about, we're going to have some tax tips. We have 3 ways that you can potentially shortcuts to cut your taxes. That's going to be on Wednesday's show. Good time for that. A couple more headlines and more fun coming up on Money with Friends. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Bye. All right, 16 and 18 for the two. Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Bye.